Aurora people. You get the same thing from Florian. And we get the same thing, quite frankly, from you guys at TBUT. If you don't mind my saying it, you're Aurora people. There's a certain passion to it. There's a certain energy that I think you can probably detect. There's a certain impatience, and there's a certain urgency. And we spoke a little bit about this. We've covered a little bit about this today, especially Brian, in talking about how we've got a window of opportunity here. We've got a window of opportunity, and we don't know how long that window stays open for leading Canadian companies in this sector to grab hold of the opportunity to be dominant in markets around the world. This opportunity does not come around very often. When was the last time that a bunch of Canadian companies said, oh, we'll just dominate that industry globally? Beyond maple syrup. I know. I'm a Habs fan. Don't push me. I'm a Montreal boy. I don't even want to think about it. 2019, please. Okay. So, it doesn't happen very often, and we have this unique opportunity, and it's almost an accidental opportunity. The reason it happened is because the Harper government, which was not friendly to cannabis, established a medical cannabis system that did one thing that was critically important. He made it a competitive system with multiple competitors, multiple suppliers, multiple licensed producers. And before that in Canada, we had a sole supplier situation through Canada, which we bought this year. And in the Netherlands, Dutchman BV, which Florian was talking about, has been in a sole supplier situation for the same amount of time, since 2001. Creating this competitive multiple supplier system, that drove innovation. And the innovation moved really, really quickly. And it allowed us to assemble capital and create these competitive companies. Now, there are 105 companies licensed under Health Canada today. Are they all going to survive? No, they're not. There are going to be some winners. And unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of companies that don't make it to the finish line. That's a reality, though, in any industry. What's different here is that we got that head start in Canada with a regulated system, extremely well regulated, put together by bureaucrats at Health Canada who are as good as any public servants I've ever encountered anywhere in the world. And they put together this system that was workable, that was well regulated, that did not allow for any diversion into the black market. And it is so damn good that countries from around the world are coming to Canada to sit down with our bureaucrats and to sit down with companies like us. I can't tell you how many diplomats I've met with, and I've taken on tours of our facilities from all over Europe, from South America, from Asia now. The level of interest is amazing, but that gave us the platform. It gave us the foundation to create this consumer system. And how have we gotten this deep into this without having a huge round of applause for Canada in legalizing cannabis? Come on, let's hear it. Obviously a great business opportunity, and it's why I'm standing on this stage. But by God, it's a great thing to do from a public policy perspective. And it's interesting. I started my career, my working career, working as legislative assistant to a minister in the federal government, and actually met my wife there. She was working for the opposition, and we met the day I introduced a piece of legislation. She was also a legislative assistant, so we're both policy wonks. And when it became clear that yes, Trudeau really did intend to legalize cannabis for consumer use, we both put our policy hats on and said, do I still want to be in this business? And it was a fair question because I'd gotten into a medical cannabis business with Canopy before I moved over to Aurora in March of 2016. And I could feel a sense of mission about that, absolutely. Providing, meeting that massive unmet medical need that exists for the management of symptoms across so many health conditions, and helping people who weren't helped sufficiently with traditional prescription pharmaceuticals or who couldn't tolerate the effects. That made me feel good. I could get behind that with a huge sense of mission. But it turns out that I feel the same way about consumer legalization. Because you take a close look at what we've done here in Canada, and it's just rational. It just makes sense. It's the most Canadian thing we've done in a long time. We didn't jump up and down about it. We didn't get angry at people. We thought about this, and we did something that made sense. First of all, what we've done is we've taken away the criminal sanctions associated with cannabis. And those criminal sanctions, they never worked, and they were never evenly applied. In fact, it was the opposite. They disproportionately felt the burden, the pain, the impact of criminalization disproportionately fell on people of color, Indigenous Canadians, and low-income Canadians. And the cynical joke that was around for a long, long time is, if you're white, cannabis has been legal for 20 years. It's a cynical joke with a hell of a lot of truth to it. So, first of all, we've made our society fairer and more even. Second of all, we've done something rational, because if you compare the relative harms of tobacco, alcohol, and cannabis comes out as the most benign of those substances by far. And it begins with the foundational fact that you cannot die from a cannabis overdose. There's no known level of lethal overdose. That's what makes medical cannabis possible in Canada and around the world. And these are conversations that we at Aurora are having all around the world. You can't give people a prescription for proton pump inhibitor for ulcers, or for acetaminophen, and certainly not for opioids, and go self-titrate. Find what works for you. Think about it. That's what we do with medical cannabis. You go to your doctor, you talk to your doctor about what's not working for you in terms of pain management or in terms of managing mood disorder with your standard medicine, and they say, would you want us to try some medical cannabis? And you say yes, and you get a prescription for, let's say, 1, 2, or 3 grams per day. And then you take that, you go to your licensed producer, you register, and then you have access to a whole menu of products. Has everybody here actually been on a menu for a licensed producer? It's really quite something. You have different dried cannabis. Some are sativas, some are hybrids, and some are indicas. And then you've got a range of oils, some high in THC, some with nothing but CBD, and some balanced. And with Aurora, we've got some additional products. We've got something we call fine trimmed cannabis, which is known colloquially on the street as keef, which is essentially just the trichomes, just the crystals of cannabinoids from the cannabis. We've got this whole range of products, and this is before the regulations are changed to allow us to produce the wide range of products that we need under the consumer system, such as formulations for vape pens and a million other things. So it's a safe product. It's a safe product, and we've done a rational thing by legalizing it. It still requires adults to be responsible. But you know what? We've had a mild intoxicant called alcohol for a very long time, and we've learned that we can behave ourselves as adults, or we can behave badly, and there are sanctions associated with that. So congratulations to Canada for actually getting it right, and the world is watching. Everybody's watching us. And they're watching us on a business basis too, and I could not be more pleased, because we've gone from a public policy victory, something that makes sense, that is progressive, that is good for us, to creating a business opportunity for leading Canadian companies. Not all of which will make it, we know that, but smart ones that will. The ones that have a good business strategy, like TGOD, and they're going to dominate that niche. 25 years from now, when you're talking about organic cannabis products, we're going to be talking about TGOD. That's the whole intent with Aurora as well. When I moved over from Canopy to Aurora, I met Terry Booth, our CEO, who is a force of freaking nature. Those of you who have met him will know exactly what I mean. Those of you who have seen him on TV will know what I mean. He is energetic to the nth degree. He is visionary, and it was that vision that brought me to Aurora. I had options. I had offers from 3 other companies. But it was something about Terry Booth, and one more thing. That purpose-built facility, the first facility that Aurora had in Mountain View County, Cremona, was something that made sense to me. I spent my whole career in the global biopharmaceutical sector. And we did things in a certain way. When I saw that facility, that first facility of Aurora's, before any of the other big ones went up, it made sense to me because it was purpose-built. It was the first purpose-built facility in the industry. And it was purpose-built to good manufacturing practices, GMP standards. That made sense to me. And isn't it sweet, and isn't it perfect that facility was just, within the last year, EU GMP certified, so that we now can ship our product to our partners at Padanios, soon to be Aurora, Germany, and through Padanios, soon to be Aurora, Germany. We're now selling not just in Germany, we're selling in Italy, and we're lined up to sell in all the EU countries in this cascade of new medical cannabis systems that are being set up around the world, all following the Canadian model, all open to Canadian companies. Why? Because, by God, we proved ourselves We've shown that we know how to cultivate with quality and without contamination and without distribution to the black market. We've shown that we can absolutely abide by extremely rigorous regulation by Health Canada. We have the excess product to begin selling from Canada. Canadian-grown cannabis being sold around the world. That makes me very proud. And we've also shown that we've got the access to capital and the capital management skills to be able to deploy capital, create infrastructure, get boots on the ground around the world, and do it fast before the US one day wakes up and goes, why didn't we just give the world cannabis industry to Canada? So our job at Aurora is to make sure that we have an insurmountable lead. That day when Trump or the next president says, oh, okay, this was really dumb, we've been doing wrong all these years, and actually allows the US to play and makes cannabis no longer federally illegal, we've got to have an insurmountable lead. And it can't just be about scale, it can't just be about production, but it will be partly about production. There's only a little, what Brian says, he's not going to read through the disclaimer. So what I'd like you to do now is I'll line up and come up with really carefully, because my lawyer said I had to say that. And by the way, I never even go to the bathroom without talking to our lawyers. Life has changed. So I do want to, before I wrap this thing up, and I want to hear some questions. So I want to shut up at the monologue and hear what you guys have to say, what you're interested in. But this is Aurora Sky. So this is our first of what we call our Sky class facilities. We're using that term the same way that you use with aircraft carriers. The USS Nimitz was the first of the Nimitz class. Aurora Sky is the first of the Sky class facilities, which also include our friends at TGOD, their Valleyfield facility, but also Aurora Sun, which we're building in Medicine Hat, Alberta. Very hard to get to, but the sunniest place in Canada. And also Aurora Nordic, which we're building in Denmark. And what's so special about these facilities, and I'm going to, now that Thomas is not here, he's gone back to Europe, so I'm going to absolutely diss him by saying we don't call them greenhouses. These things are not greenhouses. I call them indoor facilities with a glass roof. And the thing is, they're so different from a traditional greenhouse, I don't want them confused. There are a lot of companies in Canada that are building greenhouses. This is not one. Greenhouses, traditional greenhouses, are open to the air. They're open to the air. That allows for all kinds of bad things to happen. We don't want bad things to happen, and we have a commandment, number one, at Aurora, and that is don't lose crops. Don't lose crops. And in order not to lose crops, you got to have a closed system. That's what Aurora Sky is. It's a closed system with overpressure or positive pressure, just like in the pharmaceutical industry. And what that means is contaminants cannot enter the facility. It also gives us absolutely precise control over all the environmental variables. The lighting, the temperature, the humidity, and the nutrients. And that allows us to have the most efficient cannabis production in the world. We already had the highest production efficiency in the industry, us along with another company out of Ontario, Markham. What's it called again? MedRelief. MedRelief. You wonder why we thought that we'd go ahead and acquire MedRelief. Couldn't be another company in the industry that at the time, at scale, was more like us. High production efficiency. This is something beyond that. We're getting 5 cycles per year, 5 growth cycles per year of our indoor facilities. Through the Sky class facilities, we're going to get 6 and even more. The productivity, the efficiency of these facilities, the purity of the plants, all speak to the one thing the one desire that we had when we first chose this design. And we spent a year choosing the design for our expansion. And we wanted, without compromise, to achieve massive scale, high quality product, and ultra low per gram cost of production. That's what we're starting to get right now. And we're going to have our first harvest at Aurora Sky in 8 days. I couldn't be more proud. And Thomas is right, it's very expensive. So Aurora Sky, I think we probably already spent about 130 million, and we may be another 10 million away, because as we've been building it, we've been adding additional technologies that we've discovered. And the last thing I want to say is about the technologies. Technology is what makes these facilities that our two companies are building so completely different from anything else. And when you come into our facilities, you are going to feel like you're looking at something that aliens dropped down out of orbit. It is so different from all of the cannabis production that's happening everywhere else in the world today. It's not just the closed system, it's about the automation, it's about the robotics. I just came from Sky last week. It's no surprise, I'm at Aurora Sky every week. And the robotics are working, and working as they should. And just to give you a sense of how this is going to work, we have reclaimed space in the flower rooms. We've reclaimed space because there are no humans allowed in the flower spaces and the grow spaces. And by doing that, you eliminate walkways. And so, for example, at our mountain facility in north of Calgary, we've got 55,000 square feet in the total facility space. Of that, 32,000 is flower space. Of that, 22,000 only 22,000 is actual table space or canopy space. Now, at Sky and the Sky class facilities, it's well over 90%. Over 90% of the flower space is canopy space, where you're actually growing plants. So we've taken those out, and all of the work in the flower rooms is done by robots. I'm actually having a contest to name our robots, and I want them to be cute and cuddly names, like Scooter. I don't want them to be like battling robots or Domesticon or whatever the hell they call them, Transformers. So I want us to love our robots because I think they'll do better work for us. That's just a suspicion I have. But the robots do the work. The robots do the work. So when it comes time for harvest, no people go in. You don't have troops of people going in. And remember, you don't want people around your growing plants. They're the #1 vector for contaminants. So instead, the robotic cranes will move in. They'll pick up entire tables full of plants. They'll bring them back to the central corridor. I'm just going to move down here. The central corridor at Aurora Sky runs down the center of the facility. It's 750 meters long. It contains a fast-moving and 2 medium-speed conveyor belts, overhead conveyor belts. They move everything to where it needs to go. So the robotic cranes, pick one, Cam, will pick up the entire tables, take them into the central corridor, move them to the harvest area, and that's where the harvesting will be done. Picture that on every single process, even the washing of tables. The tables themselves have to be washed. Washing rooms takes time, and time is money in this business because of the margins we're talking about. So we've got a robotic process for cleaning the tables. We have the world's biggest dishwasher. Imagine these huge tables move into the dishwasher and they get washed on a robotic level and then return to work. And we turn those flower rooms around in record time. Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. This is the invention of 21st century cannabis production, and it's just the start. Because now we're layering on science like nobody's ever done before. Okay? That's why we acquired Anandia Labs. It cost us $150 million worth every penny, because that is deep science, deep cannabis science right down to the genetic level. And it is going to lead us to a new world of IP, the intellectual property on this. We know what we're doing. The last thing I want to tell you is that we know what we're doing in this company. We've got a management team that's assembled of people like me who come from mature industries and people who come from the cannabis culture. And they bring the passion and the knowledge, that store of knowledge with them. And what we've created now is a hybrid culture and a unique company that I couldn't be more proud of. That is going to, if all goes well, touch wood, take over the world in a benign Canadian way. Thank you very much for listening. I'm going to break the rules and go past 0, so if we have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Over here, I'm going to come to you.
So it strikes me
Hang
as
on.
though,
Okay.
yeah. So it strikes me as though there's a definite clear battle for #1 between you and Canopy. Canopy taking the organic, like the yourself measurement, you doing the merger and acquisition and aggressive growth. Do you plan on continuing that trajectory for 5 and 10 years? And like, what is the 10-year vision for your development and growth process throughout those years?
Canopy's Canopy. I worked there. Good company, nothing but good things to say about it. But honestly, we're not worried about them. We don't care about them. We're doing our own thing. We have been from the beginning. Remember, This is not a horse race, and it has no finish line. My intention and our intention at Aurora is to create a global company that's every bit as big as the global brewers, like SAB Miller. And you can figure out the scale of that. They have a different business than theirs. I like ours. This is where I want to be. And very specifically, we had to come from behind. So Canopy's had the luxury of being in first place from the very beginning, right? Tweed was the first company to sell cannabis. They were the first to go public. They've been first all along. We didn't get our licenses from Health Canada until more than a year and a half after they did, and everybody else. So if you think about Canopy, it's all blessed 13 companies, right? So Tweed, Vetrocan, Metro, all got their licenses right at the beginning. All of the other major competitors, MedRelief, Afria, CanAmed, CanTrust, all of them got their licenses as part of the blessed 13. We had to wait 18 months. So we've been playing catch up. We've been executing fast and executing well. We're going to continue that. That's our plan. And we think that you have to be properly integrated like that. You've got to have all of those pieces of the puzzle. And that's why we're acquiring right now. And I'll say one more thing. The companies that we've acquired, they've all become more valuable. Whether they become part of or organic growth, which by the way has been faster than anybody else in the industry. You talk about Tweed's organic growth, we've grown faster than anybody else since day one of our commercial sales to today. Our revenues, patient counts, and shareholder value creation have been faster than anybody else's. That's organic. On the M&A side, everything that we've invested in has increased in value. Thank you very much, T-Guy, by the way, for allowing me to say that. You guys as well.
When is Sky going to be complete?
Sky will be, I don't know, between like the lawns?
No, I mean...
So the facility is essentially done. We said mid this year. It'll be mid this year. But the nice thing is we got our license for Sky in January. We've been producing since soon after that. First harvest in 8 days, and grand opening where I can invite all the politicians for Dog and Pony Show, probably in September. No, I'd like to ask a lady. Are there any women out there? Let's be diverse in our questions and answers, and then I will come back to you. Any women? Are there any women in the audience? There's one. Hang on a second. We're almost there.
Maybe you can verify this, but actually there's more C-suite women in this sector than in any other in the industry.
You could be a plant, by the way. So we're getting there. We're getting there. I don't think the diversity in this sector is as good as it needs to be or as good as it should be. And that's a specific concern of mine. I talk about it at conferences all the time. I can tell you this, at Aurora, we think that we've got the most diverse company in the industry. And it's not just about gender. It's also about contributions from LGBTQ candidates. It's about minority candidates. We want, and I want, this company to look like Canada. At Aurora, we have been specifically going out of our way and taking extra time to make sure that we hire diverse candidates. This matters not for checking off boxes, but because the diversity of perspective and the diversity of experience actually matters in how you manage a company. I'm going to go back over to this gentleman over here. Boy, just for being a guy.
I have a question. What's Aurora's sudden spike of interest in Alethea?
In Alethea?
The company Alethea.
Alethea?
It's run by former police chief Julian Fontaine.
You're getting up in way beyond anything we've actually done. If you're hearing rumors that I haven't heard, we can talk after. Over here, then I'm going to go over there.
I just happened to read that Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Trudeau has stated that recreational marijuana would be available starting October 17, 2018. Since Aurora Sky is not yet ready, what's your thought that Aurora would be able to meet the expectation and demands of the market?
We're ready. We're going to be taking down our first harvest in the end of this month and the beginning of the next month, and then ramping it up through the year, reaching full capacity of in excess of 8,000 kilograms per month in January of 2019. So we also have access to all the product that we've been growing at our other facilities. We're about to get our sales license at our Aurora V facility in Montreal, which is essentially the same size as our Aurora Mountain facility, plus CanAmed, where we've been enhancing yields, plus MedRelief, assuming, touch wood, that we don't have the difficulties closing that acquisition, and we don't anticipate any. And by the way, we're going to have the votes at both companies, the shareholder votes on the 18th of July. So the other thing to bear in mind, I think this is some useful perspective. Some people who work for other companies that have been all about gearing up for day one of consumer legalization have been treating it like it is a horse race with a finish line. Whoever has the most products stockpiled on day one of consumer legalization, aha, the winner. We have to live with the fourth dimension here, right? We've got to operate over time. So one thing to bear in mind is that the products that are available on day one of consumer legalization, they'll be sold off the shelves. People will consume them. They'll decide whether they like them. They'll report back to the retail chains that sell them. And as other products are tried, and people aren't going to go in and go, oh, I've tried this cannabis, that's all I'm ever going to use. They're going to try around, right? They're going to try a whole bunch. They're going to find out the ones they like. And what's going to happen? The retail buyers are going to order more of the ones that people actually like. So we have to be realistic about this. It's not a horse race. There's not a finish line. The objective in this business, as far as I'm concerned, is to be not just the biggest, but the best, and to grow not just on a Canadian, not just on a North American, but on a global scale. To grow not just on the medical side, but on the consumer side. To have IP, to be fully integrated companies. That's the game, my friend, I think. We're going to go over to this side of the room.
So, if I told you that T-God is my daughter, what are your intentions with my daughter?
If I told you that T-God was my daughter, what are your intentions with my daughter?
Well, I wish you hadn't put it that way. I don't know.
What do you say?
I wish you wouldn't have put it there.
You know, we've got an amazing arrangement with them that's culturally good. We fit. We make decisions well together. You know, there's obviously the money that we've invested, but it's more than that. And we've agreed to offtake a heck of a lot of product from T-God. And we wouldn't do that for just anybody. We've also, you know, we've made it clear that we can have back and forth among our growers. And that's something that we jealously guard with most, because our growers are like magicians. They've done things. They're plant whisperers. They've done things that others haven't. That's why we've got such high production efficiency. So if we never do anything more than what we've got right now, I'd be perfectly satisfied. Do I think that that's where it's going to stop? No, probably not. I think that we're going to continue on and do more things together. But the bottom line is, you're asking if we're going to ask for the hand in marriage, and I can't tell you that just yet because we're still a bachelor. We're only 4 years old. I know you got to wrap this up soon, so let's do one more, two more here.
Do you expect any setbacks in the near future? Any risks that you see with overall development, sales?
No, yes. That's
Very specifically, I expect problems, risks, uncertainties, bumps in the road. Bumps in the road. And I spent 15 years before getting into this business as a global management consultant in the biotech and pharma sector. And part of what I did was go and troubleshoot broken operations in different parts of the world. What I'm trying to do, and what we're more broadly trying to do at Aurora, is anticipate as much as we can, but more than that, create the response capability. We know there's going to be bumps in the road. It could be public policy threats. It could be, I don't know, maybe one day Donald Trump wakes up and tweets something. You know, things can happen. What we want to have is the agility and the management chops to handle those situations when they come along. That's what good management is for. And I'll give you an example. We've done this before. In the end of 2016, I had to make a very unpleasant call, along with Terry, to the then CEO of Organigram. And that was that we had discovered a contamination by microbutanol and by phenazate to ban substances on product that we had purchased wholesale from Organigram and intended to resell to our customers. We discovered it before it went out. We had previously purchased product from Organigram and tested it, came back clean, sold it to our customers, all good. But we had this situation, and it was bad enough that we had to have this call. That ruins, you know, so you get that call, you've ruined that person's day, week, month, and year. And they're just starting to crawl out from under the burden of that. But we got affected too, because on a precautionary basis, Organigram recalled all of the product that they produced from February to December of 2016.
Oh, wow.
And that meant that we had to do our own damn recall. We didn't even have the problem in the first place. And still, we had to do a recall. So what did we decide to do? We decided if you have to do a recall, you do the best recall anybody's ever done. And we did. We did a great recall. We got virtually 100% of people covered. We did it super fast. And then we went further. We gave all of our patients 100% credit. 100% credit for all of the product, whether they used it or not. And the other companies affected by the recalls, and there were a number of them, you remember, it was a scandal at the beginning of 2017. They were offering 20 to 25% credits. We gave 100% credit right from the very beginning. We didn't hesitate. And then we did something that I'm really proud of. We perceived a risk, a crisis of confidence in the entire medical cannabis system because it was company after company after company that was being caught with these illegal pesticides. So we built on our existing protocol whereby we always tested every lot we'd ever produced and every lot we'd ever wholesaled in. We already did the testing. So we created a new protocol for not just testing but disclosure. To the point where if you go on AuroraMJ.com right now, or on our mobile app, the only mobile app in the industry, you will be able to see on our menu where our list of cannabis products is an icon that says Anandia Certified. And if you click on that, you get a 2-page PDF of something we created called a simplified COA, a simplified certificate of analysis. And what that COA means is that that specific lot that you're looking to buy right now has been tested for the presence of microbial contamination, heavy metals, and 51 pesticides, meaning it is objectively impossible that it's contaminated. Now, Organigram has done exactly the same thing. Other companies have done exactly the same thing. That was our intention. I'm on the board of Cannabis Canada, the industry association, and I made sure that they understood that we expected them to do the same thing. This was not just for Aurora, this was Aurora leadership. It was about elevating the entire sector, and we're doing this across functions. We're doing it on the finance side as well. If you take a look at our MD&As, we're adding additional information with each MD&A, including some metrics that other companies are not yet, including grams produced in a quarter. We're trying to elevate the entire sector. We're trying to act as leaders. Do we have, are we done? We're done. We're done. Thanks very much.
What an incredible presentation. Thank you very much again. And thank you to all of you guys for coming out, taking the time out of your day to make this happen. Let's have one more round of applause.